Okay. So yes, as I was saying a moment ago, this is the USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology. I love to begin with this slide just for folks who may be a little unfamiliar with gerontology. The way that we like to study it is we phrase gerontology as being the study of the aging process across the lifespan. We study that through 4 different models: biology, psychology, sociology, and public policy. We are the first and one of the largest as well as most comprehensive schools to offer studies in aging. We're located in sunny Los Angeles, California, and welcome students from all around the world to be able to study at our university. So today I am joined by Dr. Paul Nash, who is one of our esteemed faculty, as well as Sheridan Sotelo, who is one of our current students, and Jim Cordenbrock, one of our alumni. So we'll begin today's presentation with Dr. Nash. He is a professor of gerontology here at the school, and he focuses mostly on ageism and intersectionality, specifically HIV and aging, as well as stigma and discrimination. So I will hand it off to Professor Nash.
Thank you very much, Jasmine. I promise I won't keep you all too long. Okay, is Jasmine, are you moving my slides or?
Yes, I'll be moving you.
Fabulous. Okay, so welcome everybody. It's great to see so many people here. If we can move on the slides. So my favorite subject. I'll tell you a little bit about me first. My background is in psychology. As Jasmine mentioned, we have psychologists, sociologists, biologists, demographers, statisticians. We have a whole range of people and a whole range of disciplines in our department. Myself, I'm, in addition to my position at the university, I'm also on the board of directors for the American Society of Aging, also on several boards within the Gerontological Society of America, as well as being the lead aging commissioner for the Los Angeles County Commission on HIV, as well as then on a number of other boards across LA. And that's important because it demonstrates USC and especially the Leonard Davis School of Gerontology's commitment, not just to forwarding academic prowess, but also being actively engaged in the furthering of our community locally, nationally, and also that of gerontology more broadly. We'll go on to the next slide. So my areas of interest, as Jasmine mentioned, are largely around ageism and intersectionality. And the reason why that's important for me is because, as you'll address in all of the courses that we teach here in the USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology, is it doesn't matter whether you are Black, whether you're white, whether you're male, whether you're female, whether you're religious or not, we're all aging. And our experiences of aging, there are going to be some universalities, but there are also many intricacies and differences. And from the research that our faculty do through to the teaching that we translate that into, you will be exposed to all of these differences, these nuances, but also see the threads that run amongst them. So as you can see, my areas of interest cover everything across the life course. And we feel that's really important as well, because aging doesn't just happen when you hit 65. It happens from the moment you're born. Some people would argue it happens genetically before that point and the inheritance that you get from previous generations. But wherever we see that starting from, it happens across the life course. And the older adult that you become in your 60s, 70s, and beyond definitely starts in youth. So taking that life course perspective is important, not just for my research, but across the teaching perspective that we have. We'll go for the next slide. So why USC? So Jasmine alluded to it. I'm not going to be quite as coy as Jasmine. I'm going to say we're the biggest, we're the best. There's a reason why somebody with a British accent is now teaching in the US, because USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology is the powerhouse of gerontology anywhere in the world. I have worked and taught in India. I've worked and taught and supervised students in Australia, across Europe, and USC is where it is at. We are the biggest and best at what we do. We have the most teaching faculty. We have the most research. We have everything you could possibly want. And when it comes to teaching, we make sure that our teaching is research-led as well. So we are what's called an R1 university, and there are only a handful of those across the US. That means that we get huge amounts of research income and we translate that across. So when you are learning in our classes, you're not just learning from a textbook that may be 20 or 30 years old. You're learning not just from the research that is being published in the last couple of years, but you're learning from the researchers who are conducting that research in the past couple of years. And that's why it's really important when we translate this research that we're giving students who engage in our courses those skills to be able to ask those questions, because when we're teaching, we want you to question us. We want you to engage in those conversations. And that's really why USC offers this unrivaled learning environment and also development opportunities where students get invited to participate in this world leading research. Move on to the next slide. So, what are some of the classes that I teach? Well, as I mentioned before, I'm a psychologist. So, obviously, I teach the psychology programs, but I also teach across sociology, research methods, leadership and change management, intersectionality around our gender and sexuality across the life course programs, mind body connection, bringing together biology and psychology. So there's a whole range of courses that you're going to be exposed to. And you're going to have a number of faculty across those because one of the things that we pride ourselves on by having so many faculty across many diverse programs, across diverse disciplines, sorry, means that when you are engaging in the taught programs. You are being taught by world leading faculty in those areas. So you are likely to have one or two seasoned faculty who are teaching each one of your classes, and they are referring to areas that they are expert in. One of the key things that makes our program stand out as well is that they are AJEC accredited, so the Accreditation in Gerontology Education Council, which means that all of the underpinning programs that we teach, all of the core programs, have those competencies that mean that you can not only understand the key principles in gerontology, but that increases your employability as well. Because the employers know what to expect when you graduate. Because let's be brutally honest, gerontology isn't necessarily one of the most identifiable courses, but that means that you are having an underpinning to show, well, actually, we can map this onto the key skills that any employer wants, that the key skills that any discipline would want. And that's why it's important to understand that gerontology is more than just a classroom-based discipline. So if we move on to the next slide, you'll see some of the areas that gerontologists are employed in. So yes, you might be employed in research, you might be employed in teaching, but you might be employed in policy, in advocacy. Outside of that, that people might not necessarily think about is technology. So we know, for example, we live in an aging society. That means that aging or older adults are consumers. So we need products that are not just designed for older adults, but by and with older adults. And from the perspective of an older adult, because let's be honest, we want products that we're happy to use rather than just ones that we feel the urge or need to use. So we need products that are designed that are fun to engage with. So we need gerontologists to be part of that perspective as well. We need gerontologists to be involved in design. We need gerontologists within finance. So it might be around investments, but it also might be around insurances. It might be understanding the needs of an aging population. And because older adults are part of every aspect in society, so as we see, gerontologists will be as well. And that's one of the reasons why we try to underpin and use employability processes across all of our courses, because you are there to sell yourselves. We will help you, but you need to sell yourselves as well to help others understand and see the value that gerontologists have outside of these niche areas of um, working in a care home, for example. Okay, so we'll move on to our next one. And as I mentioned before, USC is the place to be, not just because of our teaching excellence, not just because of our research excellence, but because of the community that we're all part of here as well. So we have a vibrant student gerontological association, which brings all of our students, be they undergraduate, master's level, up to PhDs together as well. And we find that students are really great at learning from each other, because it can be a little bit intimidating necessarily socializing with your faculty members, but actually learning from people who've been here for a few years, putting together programs that enrich your social aspects, but also enrich your learning as well. We also make sure that we engage and recognize the diversity in our student and faculty bodies as well, celebrating things like Black History Month, Pride Month, International Day of Older Persons. And we do this through cultural celebrations. So it might be what gerontology is always known for is having great celebrations. So this might be cultural food celebrations, it might be cultural celebration events. These can be student led, they might be faculty led, they might be school led. But the whole point is about bringing our student and faculty together. So although we've said that we are a really big school, we're a really big school of gerontology, but in USC's perspective, we're a pretty small school, which means that we have a really tight sense of community. So you'll find that many of the faculty will have an open door policy. So if you need to come and speak to somebody, that door's open. If you need referrals to somebody, we'll help you with that as well. We have very much more of a small school feel, which means that you'll get much more one-on-one time with your faculty as well. And hopefully our alum who are here to talk to you as well will be able to reiterate that point and say how accessible we are as a faculty. Other than that, I will always say that my details are available on this talk. So if you do want to reach out to me and ask me anything about our faculty or about our school, feel free. But other than that, I will move on to my final slide, which is just some information. Otherwise, it might not be there. I'll pass back to Jasmine because I know we've only got a couple of minutes each.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Nash. I always appreciate hearing how passionate you are, not only about the field of gerontology, but the school as well. But before we move on, I did want to ask, could you provide a little bit of advice for someone who may be starting their journey in gerontology? And if you could go back and give that person advice, what would you say?
I think the key thing I would say if you're starting your gerontology journey and you're starting it at USC, well, first of all, well done. You've picked the best place to be, but also take advantage of things because as a newbie to the field, you might not know most of the terms that we're throwing about. Ask questions. Engage with the SGA because that's how you get to network amongst your peers because your peers are going to be the future leaders in that field. Also, don't be afraid to ask questions of faculty. I mean, nobody will bite your hand or be scary out there. So what I would say is make the most of the opportunities that are available. USC is the best place to engage across research, across volunteer opportunities, but these opportunities are only as good as if you're willing to engage with them. So be brave, put your head above the parapet, and make the most of your time here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again for your presentation, Dr. Nash. So now we'll be moving on to one of our current students, as well as one of our alumni, Sheridan Sotelo. Sheridan is a graduate of our Master of Science in Gerontology and is now a current student in our Doctorate of Longevity, Arts, and Sciences program. So thank you again for joining us as well, Sheridan. I do have a couple of questions for you if you'd be happy to answer those.
Sure.
Wonderful. So as someone who's not only an alumni, but is also a current student, what are or what have been some of your favorite classes or projects that you've worked on thus far?
Well, there's been a lot. Just a little basic background about me is I am not a gerontologist by trade. I came into this with this little thing called the pandemic, and I'm a film editor by trade. And our show shut down, and I said, if they don't shoot any films, I can't cut. So what else can I do? And I've always been fascinated by gerontology. So, to those of you who have never done anything in gerontology before, USC is the place to go. And they directed me to the MSG, to the Masters of Science in Gerontology. And actually, it was Dr. Nash and Zelinsky who were my first professors a long time ago in psychology of the lifespan. And so I would think that uh, you know what? Can you say your question one more time?
Absolutely. So, my main question was, what has been either your favorite class or
Okay.
favorite project that you've worked on thus far?
Well, I loved having psychology introduce me because it was 30 years in between I went to school. So
Mm,
I went to USC as a undergrad in film school. And so I didn't know if I could even do this or not. I had never been in academia as far as research or statistics or anything like that. So one thing that having psychology of the lifespan taught me, I still remember one of the first things they said to me is that you would never compare a baby to a 30 or 40-year-old.
mm,
And when people say you're old, a lot of people go, oh, when you get your AARP card and you're 50 years old, you're old. Would you ever compare a lifespan of 30 or 40 years? And that's what the intricacies of gerontology are. It's, when we lump something as ageist or old, we're doing everybody a disservice because it's so highly unique and individualized. And that's something that USC gave me. I loved the capstone class, Gero 555. Did a lot of different paper. What I loved a lot, 589 was a great course because it was, you're seeing professionals in the field talking to to the class and getting questions and answered, service, right direct. And then I actually had the opportunity to do a couple things. For the MSG you have to do an internship, and I was mainly an online student, so I'm testimony. If you are working a full-time job, you are able to get a degree. I graduated. So it is possible. It's a lot of work, but it is possible. And I actually did do an internship while working on a show called Outer Range, and I did it online. And so it is possible. So if you feel like you can't do it because of this or time constraints and stuff like that, the online program is really great for that. So one of the things I ended up doing was a directed research class with Dr. Benton, and I wrote a bill for Congress on federal paid family caregiving leave because right now it's unpaid. So those are kind of some of my highlights.
Wonderful. What a diversity of experience. That's amazing to hear, Sheridan. And I'm so glad that you touched on being what I like to call a returning learner. I speak to quite a number of students who are interested in coming back to school after being out of the classroom for a while. So it's really interesting to hear that you found the online option to be of a benefit to you. So I did just want to ask, outside of what you mentioned, did you experience any other unexpected challenges in returning to school whilst also being a working professional?
Well, time management is always one of them. But the one thing that I really liked about online courses versus my experience 30 years prior as a regular student is that all of the online, you can always go back and watch a lecture over and over again just to get that. So you're not like, it's an actual thing that, like, if you didn't take notes you'll never get. So you can just process how the way you learn, and you can be very individualized about it. You also don't want to let things get out of the way. It really, when you start a class, really take that syllabus into account, read it thoroughly, and basically plan your schedule accordingly. And that will help a lot because it's really quick, and these midterms and papers come up quicker than you think. So if you schedule them like you would schedule your work day, that helps a lot.
Wonderful. I think that's fantastic advice, Sheridan. And thank you again so much for being a part of our panel today.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so now we'll be moving on to one of our alumni. Jim Cordenbrock is a graduate of our Master of Arts in Gerontology, as well as our graduate certificate in gerontology. His professional background includes being a part of the US military, as well as operating at the sea level, and he is the owner and president of Home Instead. So welcome, Jim. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Wonderful. So I know you've got a couple of things to mention in your slide, but I did just want to ask as well, um, on topic as well too, what would you say are some of the things that have helped contribute to your own business experience within the program after being a graduate?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so for me, it was, I'm going to take a step back quick, right? It was 37 years from when I graduated to when I went back to school at USC. It was awesome, right? And for me, it was about relevancy, right? Because I've been very fortunate. I've done a lot of cool things, and I own this in-home care business. We have about 142 caregivers on staff, about 100 clients, 100 plus clients. So I had to take a step back and say, okay, how do I really learn this business? I mean, I had experience with my own parents, both who passed away. That's how I got into this. One of Alzheimer's, the other of pancreatic cancer. So I said, what do I do? And so I looked up, and this great, amazing school, like Dr. Nash said, was right down the road. So I was like, wow. Because for me, it's about relevancy, right? Because I'm in the throes of this. I've owned the business for about 5 years now. And every single day I'm dealing with aging adults. That's what I do. So the relevancy to me, being realistic and really actionable, right? So how do I use this? How do I train our caregivers better? Because for us, it's about how do we keep aging adults aging in place, staying in their home where they really want to be, where it's good for them, better for them, and they can thrive, right? So taking all this amazing curriculum and putting it together because it's relevant. I use it every single day. And we train caregivers and we work with clients and their families to get them through this sometimes a very tough process. So it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
That's amazing. It's great to hear where our alumni do end up and how they're able to apply the skills they learn in the classroom into their working life. So, yeah, I'm happy to go ahead and let you tell us a little bit more about Home Instead as well.
Yeah, I mean, so again, Home Instead's mission is just to help people age in place. I mean, that is ultimately what we do. We can do anything that person would have to do to stay in their home. We're a global organization. We're in 12 countries around the world. The territory, what I own is Southern California, Southern Orange County, actually. And that's what we do. And so that's really what Home Instead is. It's about running a business, and, we offer full benefits to our employees. We try to do everything we can for our caregivers, because it's such an important job, right? It's so critical to what we do. And unfortunately, when we talk about policy, we have to do something on a bigger scale to get our type of care accessible to everybody, right? Because it's so important, yet it's private pay, a lot of it. So anyway, that's ultimately what we do. And every day I'm engaged in that. And, in addition to running the business, I caregive, right? I go out there and I have to caregive and jump in on shifts, which I love actually to do. It gets me out of the office. But that's kind of our passion and what we do with it. And so that value, again, from this amazing education was unbelievable. And I think Dr. Nash said it best. That accessibility was so important. It was intimidating in a way, but it not, because being the best school in the world in gerontology, you'd think, oh my goodness. But I had Dr. Nash for several courses. The door was always open, right? Anytime I had a question, and believe me, I was the type that I wasn't going to sit there and not say anything in class. So I'm like, okay, I need to understand this. Wait, I don't get that. Or help me understand this. Or why do we think that? Whatever it was. And it was always so welcome and opening, the faculty, and everybody was like, not just Dr. Nash, who's unbelievable, but there wasn't one professor that I didn't learn tremendous amount from, and who didn't also kind of reverse that and say, what are your experiences, Jim, as you're dealing with this every day, right? So it was just, it was really, really, really important. And I think that the whole, life course theory is you learn that so much impacts an individual, right? We have a snapshot of them right in time, right? Where they are, whether they're, 80, 90, or even 100, right? But there's so many factors that the previous, 100 years or 90 years have on that individual, right? So our job is to understand that. Our job is to understand how did that impact them to get them to where they are? Because again, we want to make that next phase in their life that, as they get closer to end of life up through hospice, we want that to be a beautiful experience. We want them to thrive and be enriched. And so our job is to do that. So all this learning was so instrumental in helping us to do that. And then again, training other caregivers so they get that. And I've actually hired another woman, another fellow student. She graduated a year before me. She actually works in the company with me. So it's great, because there's such a need for it, with that aging population. So anyway, for you guys that are thinking about it, all, it's so important, even from a macro level that, they're just under 60 million that are age 65 plus in the US now. It's going to grow to just under 90 million in 2050. That's huge growth, right? It's 100% globally. But so this is a situation, or we're faced with something that's impacting all of us, right? So the more we can understand that in that aging process, the better everyone will be. I don't care what job, what role you're in, from, the macro all the way down to the micro level. So it's really cool.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, as
Yeah.
well as the fact that you were able to bring on another one of our alumni. I always tell students that our Trojan
Yes,
Family Network extends far past you being a student at the university and
that's right.
definitely follows you through your career. So that's fantastic to
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great. It's great. And we're
wonderful.
always looking for good people too. So that's the good thing. You need them. So we got to
Awesome.
keep getting it out there.
Very good. Well, yes, thank you again for joining us, Jim. And as Stephen mentioned a moment ago, we're going to reserve some time following today's presentation for some questions. But now I'm actually going to discuss a couple of the programs that we've mentioned in today's presentation. So at the university, we offer 12 different programs at the master's level in gerontology. So today I'll touch on our Master of Science in Gerontology, our Master of Arts in Gerontology, our certificate, as well as our Doctorate of Longevity Arts and Sciences. So within our master's programs, I do like to let students know we tend to offer up to $1 million in scholarships to students through our merit-based scholarships. So if you do intend to apply, I highly encourage you to apply to that. USC does also have our Office of Financial Aid, which has scholarships, assistantships, fellowships, and grants that you can apply to. Our programs can be offered either fully online or on site, and you can pursue them at either part-time or full-time. We also have several different study abroad options, as was mentioned earlier, and we offer internships and research opportunities. So our Master of Science in Gerontology is our flagship program. This program will allow you to study gerontology within those 4 core models that I mentioned beforehand. So biology, sociology, public policy, and psychology. Since it does have an internship component, it is a little bit of a longer program, but we accept on a rolling basis. So spring, summer, or fall, you can join us as a student within the Master of Science in Gerontology. As I was saying, some of the students who pursue this program go on to pursue a lot of different things once they do graduate. So whether that be within executive positions, consulting, doing policy and advocacy work, and of course, scientific research, study, and going into medicine. We also offer the Master of Science in Gerontology as a dual degree option. So if you were interested in pursuing 2 master's degrees at once, you could absolutely do so. You would just need to apply to both our program and one of the 6 programs that are listed on screen. Our Master of Arts in Gerontology is somewhat similar, but also a little different from our Master of Science. Within the Master of Arts in Gerontology, it's designed for people who have somewhat of a background in gero and who have worked within the field already. I like to call this one our Executive Enhancement degree, since it will give you a little bit more knowledge and insight on current trends within the market. With that being said, it can be done within a year if completed at full-time and within 2 years if done at part-time. And again, you can complete the program either online or on site. Again, this is ideal for someone who already has some experience in gerontology, but isn't just relegated to them. It's also ideal for folks who would like to get into consulting or do policy or advocacy work. Our graduate certificate in gerontology is probably one of my more favorite programs because it is so accessible. So I tend to recommend this program to working professionals who would, again, like to learn a little bit more about gerontology, but aren't necessarily prepared to do a full master's degree. So this non-degree program provides them an opportunity to learn more about the field within a shorter time span. So the program itself can be completed within 5 months if done at full time, and 1 year to 1.5 years if done at part-time. The certificate will again prepare people who are interested in either working with older adults one-to-one, and of course being able to learn a little bit more about creating opportunities within the field of gerontology. Our Doctorate of Longevity Arts and Sciences is a doctoral program that allows students to really work on a summative project. For that reason, it is significantly longer, so most students will complete the program within 4 to 5 years. For this program, we accept for a fall and spring start date, and of course, again, can be done either on-site or online. Again, as I was saying, this is designed for someone who's working on something that is a little bit of a longer project, like writing a book, for example, or of course, writing a piece of legislation or proposals for a nonprofit organization. Our applications to our master's programs as well as our doctorate programs are pretty straightforward. So you would need to submit an online application, resume, your statement of interest, letters of recommendation, and your official transcripts. With regards to the Doctorate of Longevity Arts and Sciences, you will also need to submit a supplemental application as part of your application. Since we do welcome so many international students to the school, I also like to share this, since there may be some special documents that they need to submit alongside their application, whether that be English proficiency exams or different visas and country-specific documents. So when do you need to apply? For most of our master's programs, we do actually accept on a rolling basis. So what that means is we do have priority deadlines, one in the fall. For the spring semester, October 15th is when that is. And then March 15th if you're interested in either a summer or a fall start date. The Doctorate of Longevity Arts and Science program does have a priority deadline of December 1st, but we will also be willing to accept applicants to that program on a rolling basis as well. Again, I would like to reiterate that I am a member of the admission counselor team here at USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology. Some of my other team members are shown on screen here. Thank you so much for your hard work and for joining me here in the call today. And lastly, if anybody has any questions or would like to hear from myself or one of my fellow admission counselors, please let's stay connected. Please feel free to scan the QR code and it will take you to a page where you can share a little bit more information about yourself and some of the things that you may like to learn about. And before we end, I would again like to thank our esteemed panelists for joining us today. And now we can go ahead and jump into some Q&A questions if anybody has some in the chat that's a little bit more specific to a student. So what I'll do is give you a more general answer. The merit-based scholarship is a part of the application. So if you answered those within your application, then you would still be able to consider for that scholarship. Additionally, you can apply to other scholarships outside of the university as well. So I would highly encourage you to contact either one of the admission counselors team, who I showed images and contact information for beforehand, or if you are an admitted student, I would definitely recommend that you contact your academic counselor as well. And so are there any other questions before I end our call today? Oh, okay, one more. So what sort of background do you look for in a PhD student applying to your gerontology PhD program? So actually, Dr. Nash, could you maybe provide some insight on that? And then I'm happy to tag on a little bit more once you've finished up.
Yeah, no problem. So we accept a whole range of students through our PhD programs. They can be traditional or non-traditional students. So you may very well have a background in gerontology, but you might have a background in an affiliated subject, so like psychology, etc. When it comes to personal backgrounds, we want somebody who's motivated. So it's not just a case of putting in a random application to anybody and just hoping that they'll say yes, but demonstrating an interest in the field. So how have you engaged with the field? Have you got experience in the field? Have you got any prior publications or research knowledge? Because if you're applying for a PhD over something like the DLAS program, then it is going to be research based. And although we have scholarship and we have tutelage and support through that PhD program, there obviously is a very highly competitive program. So you have to show that you've got that drive to carry on and do the same research project essentially for 4, 5, 6 years to get through this program, because it's a huge investment both in terms of yourself, but also in terms of the faculty and the school at a broader level, because there's an awful lot of support that's given to you as well. So yes, you need that academic background. You need to have some kind of either research or social science, or if you're looking specifically within the gerontology program, then you need to be able to have that background in psychology, sociology, demography, or something that's related to aging, but also make yourself stand out. That's why when Jasmine was asking, one of the things that is great about our program is the ability to network, the ability to try new things, the ability to immerse yourself in the field. That doesn't mean to say that if you haven't done a USC undergraduate program or master's program that you can't get onto our PhD program, because part of the idea of our admissions process is that you go through the interviews as well. So it's about being able to put your best foot forwards and having that elevator speech and having that motivation and understanding why it is that you want to do a PhD as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for answering that so thoroughly. So yes, I also wanted to go ahead and contribute to that as well. USC really does pride itself on creating future leaders. So on top of what everything that Dr. Nash said, be sure to articulate why it is you are excited about joining us here at the school. So aside from some of the wonderful things that you'll be able to learn in class, what is it about this school specifically that is of most interest to you, and gerontology broadly? I'm sure all of the audience can see a through line through all of our guests that they're very passionate about the field of gerontology. So I always encourage students to really articulate about that in their application as well. So it looks like we do have another question for Sheridan. Can you say a little bit more about what appealed to you about applying to the DLAS program after earning your MSG?
What applied mainly to the DLAS program, I love that it's a brand new program. It was 2021 when it was established. And one thing that I really loved about that and gerontology is the real life things that you can do with gerontology. So it's not just about writing an academic paper, but it's how that academic paper relates to changing people's lives. The area of gerontology that I glommed onto the most was policy. And with the DLAS program, I actually have an idea for a nonprofit, and that's going to be my summative project. And it's a summative project that will be a matter of chosen family. And so a lot of the legal and the policy about who is our actual family and who takes care of us as we get older, and through any diversity with, if you're LGBTQ, how do those relations coincide? And what I loved about the DLAS program is that I'm going to have the resources of USC to kind of have that vision. So it's not just me in a vacuum. I'm trying to do a real life thing with the strength and the research and the resources of USC. So that's what the DLAS, so I felt it was more of a springboard for this thing that I wanted to accomplish.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we do have a couple of other questions here in the chat, one of which is, are McNair scholars afforded additional financial support? Yes, so we do offer, or the university does offer fee waivers for McNair scholars. If you please go ahead and leave your contact information for us or fill out that form, one of our admission counselors will be able to direct you to more information about where you can find specific aid with regards to being a McNair scholar. Additionally, it looks like we've got one more here. Okay. Alrighty. And we've got another question about research. So with regards to different research opportunities, of course, there are different labs that you can join as a member or as a student to one of our programs. With that being said, I would also redirect you over to our website. On there, you can see all of the different research lab opportunities, whether they are housed within the school itself or if we partner with anyone. So I would definitely ask you to go ahead and visit that website or our website as well to see what may be available to you. Alrighty, and it looks like our last question here is, hi, I'm a rising senior high school student getting ready for college. What qualities and experiences are you looking for in applications during the admission process? So as I was saying, again, USC really does pride itself on creating leaders. So make sure that you, of course, you maintain a really high GPA, but also as well, make sure that you expand that out into the rest of your experience as a student. So as Dr. Nash mentioned earlier, there are tons of different ways that we ask our students and invite them to be involved here within the community at USC, and specifically within our school. Our admission committee does look for students who are involved, whether that be through volunteering or, of course, through any other projects that they may work on. Additionally, as well, I did just want to ask a couple other questions to our panelists while we do have them. So if you guys don't mind, I have just a couple more things I'd like to get a little insight on from you, if you don't mind. Alrighty, perfect. So, Jim, I know you mentioned earlier that you were pursuing the program as a returning learner, it's like Sheridan herself. So, with that, I'd like to kind of ask the same question to you. Were there any unexpected challenges that you had in returning to school as a working professional?
Yeah, I think the challenge was just trying to balance the work environment with the school, right? Because it's, what I do is it takes time, right? And I'll never forget walking in because I not only did online, but I did a lot of in person just because I wanted to be in a classroom. So I'd drive, from South County all the way up. I loved it. But there was a couple times where something happened, and when you're dealing with aging adults, things can happen. So there'd be times like, I gotta take care of something, right? So it's really just that balancing that. And that was rare for the most part because I think, as you said, Sheridan, you mentioned, it's online and you can go back and you can review, class notes and their lectures. So it really helped. But it's just really, for me, it was just that balancing working, beyond full time and then doing this. And so, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. So yeah, I'd like to end whenever we do host one of these webinars, I love asking this final question to all of our panelists. So the question is, what's one moment or experience during your time at the university that has stayed on with you? So Jim, I'm happy to have you start it and answer that as well.
I think something that stayed on with me is the whole life course theory perspective from Glenn Elder, something that we learned about. And again, only because as I meet with people and we assess their care, the type of needs that they, is applying that, is understanding that, is diving into what makes them tick for the previous 70, 80, 90 years, as I said before. So to me, that's just has really stuck. That's something that's been really powerful, number one. Number two, policy. I didn't think I would enjoy the policy class. I was like, oh, do I want to take policy class? I got to be honest, it was fabulous because I realized how important it is that we get what we do out there to people and change through legislation, the need for our service, especially aging in place, right? Hospice, it took over 20 years to get approved for Medicare, right? We're in the same situation. We have to get this in front. So what really stuck was that policy and realizing that impact we can actually make, even though I went in there thinking, oh boy, this is not going to be so great, but it turned out to be fabulous. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Sheridan, I'll ask the same. What's a specific moment or experience that you can recall in your time, either as a current student or in your other program, that's really stuck with you?
I'm gonna give two, just
Okay.
a real quick one. So to piggyback to Jim on policy, policy is what kind of changed me. And one of the program that I was experienced that I was exposed to was the Senate Committee on Aging.
Mhm.
And ever since I heard about that and learned about that, I've kind of wanted to take part. So that's kind of projecting into the future. And then the other thing was on a personal professor level, because even though I was online, I'm like Jim, I live in North Hollywood, so I would love to go into class, in between jobs and stuff like that because of the nature of my business. And I took a research class with Dr. Tara Mastro, and I did this research paper, and she told me, Sheridan, you're doing PhD quality work. And I was like, and that's kind of what propelled me to apply for the DLAS program. I didn't even think in my wildest dreams when I started this journey that I would be at that moment in my academic career. So that those were the kind of the highlights.
Those are fantastic. And it's great to hear that you had such support from Professor Mastro as well.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And Dr. Nash, can you share a significant memory or experience that you've had at the school?
To be honest with you, mine is more of a recurring thing. So it's every year I see a bunch of students come into our classroom who sit there on the front row who are so nervous. And by the time they've gone through our program, I see future leaders. And every year, without fail, we graduate a whole raft of students who go on and they are real change makers. And as I said, I've taught around the world. And this is the first time, or this is the first place where I've really seen people not just go on and follow a career because that's actually what they think they should do, but these are people that are graduating with passion, with drive and ambition. And it's a real great thing to see how students develop and grow through our program.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, I would like to thank all of our wonderful panelists for joining us today and our audience as well. If you are interested in attending the rest of our Gero Connect series, I would invite you to also join us on July 1st for our second session, Path to Impact, Business and Care Leadership. Thank you again to everyone for attending, and please feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any questions about the programs or the school itself.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye now.